all my crafty friends, and welcome back to Designs by Gaddis. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad you found my channel. Be sure to like this video and subscribe. By doing so, you will help others, just like yourself, be able to find my home decor DIY videos. I have to say, I have a new favorite. I saw a plant bench that She's So Crafty made and knew I had to have one. I thought it was the cutest thing ever. I put my own twist on the plant bench, and I'm so glad I did. So to get started, I had to figure out how large I wanted it to be. For the back part of the bench, I used 5 large paint sticks from Home Depot. They were the 21-inch long ones. I used the smaller paint sticks as spacers. Once I got the back part set up, I took 2 more 21-inch paint sticks and marked where I needed to cut them. They will be the supports in the back of the plant bench. I took them outside and cut them using a miter saw. Next, I needed to make the box for the seat to sit on. I used a plant stake from Dollar General for this. They have these sticks for $1. I purchased about 20 of them on my last trip. They can be used for so many different projects. I cut the larger pieces to the same width as the back of the bench, and the side pieces I cut to 4.5 inches. I used Gorilla Glue, hot glue, and staples to hold the box frame together. I also used a square to make sure the box frame was square. I was afraid I would get glue on my mat, so I replaced it with some craft paper while I worked on the plant bench. I added staples to all corners of the box frame and also to the back piece. The next step was to attach the box to the back of the bench. I cut 2 more pieces of plant stick from Dollar General at the height I want the seat to be. I glued them in place and added clamps to hold them until I could get them square and level. I put the box frame against the back piece and used a level to make sure the bench seat was level, because I would really hate for my stuff to roll off. I marked where the box frame needed to sit on both the top and the bottom. I laid the back down on my work table and applied glue between the marks I had just made on the back. I then aligned the box frame, checked the levelness, and clamped everything together. After the glue dried, I removed all the clips. I used Waverly plaster chalk paint on the entire plant bench. I painted both the front and back. And I'm not going to bore you with the painting process because I think we all know how to paint. While I waited for the paint to dry on the bench, I cut the wood for the seat. I mixed up water, dark gray acrylic paint, and black acrylic paint to create a dark gray stain for the seat. I used a Dollar Tree kitchen sponge to apply the stain mixture to the wood and wiped it down with a paper towel. Once everything was dry, it was time to put the seat on. I used hot glue and pressed the stained wood down and held it in place until it was set. This is the cutest little plant bench ever, and I cannot wait to show it off. I also wanted to add some decor to the bench. I used a large Dollar Tree bucket for a flower pot. I made a simple bow with some ribbon to add to the front of the bucket. I cut a piece of flower foam down so it would fit into the bucket and added some Dollar Tree and Walmart floral picks to the bucket. I cut the flowers off and placed them in the floral foam until I was happy with the way it looked. I next added Dollar Tree Spanish moss to the bucket. I just love the way this little arrangement turned out. The small white roses and wildflowers look amazing together. Okay, y'all, I wanted to show y'all this adorable tabletop vacuum I got from Amazon. I saw another YouTuber using it, and hers was shaped like a ladybug. She had also gotten hers from Amazon. So I took a look and found this adorable little cow and just had to have it. Believe it or not, this little thing works great to clean up messes on your desk. I'll leave a link in the description for you to take a look at these cute little things. After cleaning up my desk, I hot glued the ribbon to the front of the bucket. And look at how precious this little flower bucket is. I made a no-sew pillow using this fabric from Walmart. First, I cut it down to size and then turned it inside out. I placed hot glue down both sides and let it dry. I then turned the pillow right side out and stuffed it with stuffing out of my stash. I placed a line of glue across the top of the pillow and rolled it over. I then ran a line of glue down the opening that was left. And look at the adorable pillow for my bench. I used a tier tray tag I had left over from Christmas. The sign was already white, but I wanted it to match the bench, so I gave it a coat of plaster chalk paint from Waverly. I cut out this Bless My Blooms cut file from Design Bundles and applied it to the tag. I'll leave a link to the bundle this cut file is in. I want to say I paid like $4 for it, and it came with 20 or 30 different spring sayings. And sometimes simple is better. So I decided to leave the tag just like this. It was so beautiful. And look at how cute everything is once I put it together. Like I said, I have a new favorite now. If you haven't already, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel. I upload weekly home decor DIY videos, and you know you don't want to miss any of them. So go ahead and hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when I upload a new video. Today I'll be showing you how I made this beautiful farmhouse beaded garland with a tassel. It's perfect to add a touch of farmhouse decor to your home. My favorite colors are black, gray, and white, so this beaded garland will look amazing in my home. This is a pretty simple DIY, and it's easy enough for a beginner to give it a try. The first thing I did was paint this little wood tag with Waverly Elephant chalk paint. I painted the front, back, and the edges. And I used my hot air gun to dry it quicker. Once I was finished with the elephant paint, I added a layer of ivory chalk paint. I used 2 coats of the ivory and again used my hot air gun to dry it. If you aren't using a hot air gun, you are really missing out. I got this one from Amazon a few months ago and I love it. It saves me so much time doing projects. I'll leave a link in the description for the hot air gun I use and recommend to anyone looking to purchase one. Once I was finished painting, I used a sanding block from Dollar Tree to rough up the edges and smooth out the paint. I use rubbing alcohol and a paper towel to remove the dust after I sand it. The rubbing alcohol dries pretty quick, that's why I use it instead of just water. I found this cut file in a bundle I purchased from Design Bundles and sized it down to fit my tag. I get most of my cut files from Design Bundles and recommend them for any project you may have in mind. The pricing is the lowest I can find and the files are amazing. If you get a bundle, you save a ton of money. They also have a ton of free cut files. I'll also leave a link in the description for Design Bundles. I transferred the vinyl onto the wood tag. I used 16mm and 14mm wood beads I got from Amazon. These natural wood beads are wonderful. I just love them. I used 11 16mm and 10 14mm for this project. I placed 5 of the 16mm beads on a skewer and painted them using the same Waverly elephant paint I used on my tag. I then placed 6 of the 16mm beads onto another skewer and painted them with black acrylic paint. I placed all the 14mm beads on the skewer and painted them with the ivory chalk paint I had used on the tag. I again used my hot air gun to dry the beads quicker. To string the beads, I used a roll of what looked like kite string and began stringing them in a pattern. I'm running low on twine, but I would recommend using twine to string the beads if you have enough. The pattern I used was black, white, gray, white, and then repeated it until I was out of beads. This gave me a garland that is about 12 inches long. I used a piece of twine and ran it through the hole in my tag and then tied it onto the white string with the beads. I used a piece of ribbon and made a simple bow and glued it onto the twine. This helped to cover the white string I used for the beads. For the tassel, I used the same ribbon as I used for the bow and a thicker twine. I cut the ribbon and twine to create the tassel. I layered the tassel and then used a piece of thinner twine to tie the tassel in the middle to hold everything together. I then tied the twine to the white string with the beads. I used more of the thicker twine to create the top of my tassel. I glued the twine to the top of the tassel and then started wrapping it around the tassel until I was happy with the way it looked. When I was finished, I used a dab of glue to hold the tassel together. I then trimmed the tassel up so everything was the same length. I think this is my favorite beaded garland so far, and I can't wait to add it to my decor. Let me know in the comments what colors you will be using for your beaded farmhouse garland. If you haven't already, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel. I upload weekly home decor DIY videos, and you know you don't want to miss any of them. So go ahead and hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when I upload a new video. In this video, I will be showing you how I created this adorable clothespin riser using a Dollar Tree plastic candy dish. I found the candy dish in the wedding section at my local Dollar Tree. The first thing I did was remove the stickers and clean the plastic with rubbing alcohol. I then took the plastic candy dish outside and spray painted it black. While the paint was drying on the dish, I took the clothespins apart. I saved the little metal parts because you never know when I may want to use them in another project. I'm telling you, I save everything. My craft room is a hoarder's paradise. I mixed a little water with gray, white, and black paint to create a stain for the clothespins. I painted all of the clothespins and laid them on a piece of wax paper to dry. And this was a very messy process. By the time I got done, my fingers were covered in this gray stain. And even after scrubbing, I had stain under my nails for a few days. For my first attempt, I tried lining all of the clothespins with the line at the top. After a while though, I just really didn't like the way it was turning out, so I just removed all the clothespins and the hot glue. I wanted something different than all the other clothespin risers I've seen. So I decided to turn the clothespins in different directions as I went around the candy dish. I wanted to give the riser more of a worn and rustic look, so I used some Waverly Plaster chalk paint and the dry brush method to lighten the gray and give it a weathered look. I think the riser looks like it's been sitting out in the weather, and I just love it. I placed some Dollar Tree yellow florals and some faux lemons and limes in my little riser, and I think it just looks adorable. Let me know in the comments what your ideas are for this riser. If you haven't already, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel. I upload weekly home decor DIY videos, and you know you don't want to miss any of them. So go ahead and hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when I upload a new video. Today, I will be using 2 Dollar Tree picture frames and some wood from Hobby Lobby to make a spring 2-tier tray. The first thing I did was take the glass out of the larger frame and placed it on top of the wood. I used a pencil and traced the size I needed for the base of the tier tray. I was able to get 4 pieces out of these 2 pieces of wood. That is what I needed for the bottom of the tier tray. I took the wood outside and cut it down using a miter saw. After cutting the wood, I flipped the frame over to make sure the pieces would fit, and they fit perfectly. For the top tray, I used 8 large craft sticks and cut them down to fit in the second frame. When cutting the craft sticks, make sure you are using something sharp and cut slowly to make sure you don't crack or break the stick. I used the back of a larger frame for the bottom of the top tray. I laid the glass on top and traced it with a pencil and then cut it down to size. I used clear Gorilla Glue and hot glue to attach the craft sticks to the backing. I put the Gorilla Glue in the center of each craft stick and then put hot glue on both sides of the Gorilla Glue. Then press the craft sticks onto the backing. I continued doing this until all of the craft sticks had been attached to the backing. I sat the top tray on the floor with a stack of books on it for it to dry. For the bottom tray, I used the back of the original frame to attach the boards to, and basically did the same process I had used on the top tray, using Gorilla Glue and hot glue. I allowed both trays to dry for 24 hours. While the wood dried, I took both of the frames outside and spray painted them with white chalk spray paint. I did this so the coverage would be smooth. After the wood had dried, I used some Americana wax to stain both of them. I used a Dollar Tree makeup brush to apply the stain. I have found that Dollar Tree's makeup brushes are great for painting and staining. I will usually pick a few up every trip I make to Dollar Tree. I used a paper towel to remove the excess wax and my air gun to dry the wax quicker. I used matte Mod Podge on top of the stain to help protect it. I used more of the Gorilla Glue to attach the wood to the inside of the frame. For the feet, I used these little square blocks from Dollar Tree and used the same wax to stain them. I again used Gorilla Glue to attach the feet to all four corners of the bottom tray. I left it to dry for about 4 hours. For the middle section of the trays, I used a spindle from Lowe's and cut it down. I then used the same wax to stain it. I found the center of the bottom tray and marked it with a pencil. I also found the center of the top tray and marked it. And that is when my camera battery died and I didn't realize it. But after I found the center of both trays, I drilled a small pilot hole in each tray and attached them with screws. One going through the top of the top tray and another in the bottom of the bottom tray. And this is what the tray turned out like, and I just love it. By using the screws instead of glue, the tray doesn't move at all, and it's very sturdy. So I'm not afraid to put something a little heavier on it, unlike some of the other tier trays I have made. And just look at how cute some of my new spring decor looks on it. I love the way this sign turned out. It was exactly what I wanted, and it was a lot easier working with the foam board than with wood. I used this large bowl from my kitchen to trace a circle onto the foam board. I cut around the circle to make the foam board easier to work with because my work table just wasn't large enough. After cutting the board down, I used a razor blade to cut out the circle. I tried to stay on the line as much as possible so my circle would look good. I did have a couple of places where I got off the line, so I went back in and trimmed those areas. Using a measuring tape, I found the center of the circle and marked it. I then measured 2 inches up and placed 2 more marks. I then used a straight edge and cut shallow lines at the marks. I didn't cut completely through the foam board. I was just wanting it to look like boards. I placed a piece of painter's tape below the pencil mark in the center of the circle and pressed it down firmly. To create the knots and marks that you find in wood, I used a couple of different things. To create punch marks, I used this bottle opener and pressed it into the foam board in sporadic places and turned it different ways. I didn't want any type of pattern, just random marks. To create the knot holes, some people use their fingernails to make the knot holes, but I don't have any. So I used the other end of the bottle opener and it worked perfect. I just pressed it down to create an indentation and to rip through the top paper on the foam board. To create the tiny, what I call wormholes, I used my Cricut tool and just jabbed it around and then turned it upside down to create little notches. For the wood look, I was going for a gray color. To create the look, I used dark gray, light gray, black, and white chalk paint. I also used white wax. I used a Dollar Tree kitchen sponge. Some people use a natural bath sponge, but I didn't have one on hand. But I have used this type of sponge in the past and it works great. I dipped the sponge into the dark gray and the white wax to start with and started putting it on the foam board. I made sure my strokes all went from side to side. I then tried to use a makeup sponge to get into the cracks I had cut. I gently separated the cracks and rubbed the sponge down them. I used my kitchen sponge and dipped it into the light gray and white wax. I spread the mixture over the foam board until I liked the way it turned out. Next, I used black and white wax. I rubbed it into the knot holes and the marks I wanted to be seen. I know it looks like I have really messed up, but just wait until I blend everything. Next, I dabbed the sponge into the white and white wax and started applying it to the board. I didn't like that the black wasn't showing up the way I wanted, so I used a small paintbrush and applied black paint to the knot holes, cut lines, and other markings I wanted to show. Oh, and by the way, you don't want to lay your arm on the wet paint like I did. I'm always messy when I paint. I actually bent the foam board back so I could get into the grooves. But be careful, you don't want to rip the back of the foam board. I let the paint dry for about 10 minutes and then applied more white paint and wax. And just look at how much it looks like real wood. I removed the tape slowly from the center, making sure the paper top wasn't being pulled up. I then painted the bottom of the board with ivory chalk paint. While the paint dried, I created a cut file in Design Space. I will try to figure out how I can share this file with those of you who have a Cricut and would like to try this project. I'll leave the link in the description below. Okay, I just want to let you know this part was a fail, but I was able to recover from it. I applied the vinyl and transfer tape to the bottom half of the circle, the ivory color. When I started pulling up the transfer tape, it actually caused the paper top to come off along with the first board. Oh, I was so upset. I knew then that this is the sign I must have. After sitting and staring at the big mistake I had just made, I decided to just paint the foam part again with ivory chalk paint. I used 2 coats of paint just to make sure it was covered well. I then applied a layer of Mod Podge to the entire board and let it dry. I was really hoping this would work. I recut the vinyl and used a less sticky transfer tape. I centered the saying onto the board and removed the transfer tape. And it worked like a charm. I just wish I would have used the Mod Podge to start with. I think that would have saved the paper covering of my foam board. But since this is for my use only, I'm okay with it. Now to finish up. I used some ribbon in the middle and hot glued it to the back of the board. Oh, and let me tell you, I got a new hot glue gun yesterday from Walmart. It was only $4. It comes with a switch for low and high temps, and the nozzle is so much smaller than the glue gun I have been using. This is the first chance I've had to use it, and I love it. I then used some thick twine around the outside. This helped to cover up the fact that I was using foam board and not wood. I made a little hoop out of the twine. Before I glued it, I actually taped it down and hung it on the wall to make sure it hung straight. Does anyone else have a problem with things not hanging straight, or is it just me? Let me know in the comments. I then glued it to the mark on the back. I love this sign. I think this is my favorite project so far. I can't wait to show it off. I needed a little more room on my bathroom counter, so I decided to make a little riser to hold some of my essentials. I found this flat, round stoneware piece in my stash. I'm not sure when I got it or even where I got it, but I thought it would make a great top for my riser. I decided to paint the round with Waverly Moss chalk paint, and I dried it with my hot air gun. I had the sticker left over from another DIY and thought it would look great on this riser, even though it wouldn't be seen that often. I placed the sticker in the center of the riser and used a sponge to get out all the air bubbles. I used Mod Podge to seal the riser and protect it. I used a Dollar Tree candle holder for the base of the riser and spray painted it with white spray paint. And then I decided to distress it with some antiquing wax. To attach the bottom of the round, I used Gorilla Glue and hot glue. I had trouble getting the hot glue to hold while the Gorilla Glue set up, so I went around the rim with a bead of hot glue. I wanted to make some little jars to hold my brushes and stuff. I had these two Dollar Tree jars in my stash. I loved the design on them, but I didn't like the gold accent. The first thing I tried was to sand the gold off, but that just didn't work out the way I wanted it to. So I decided to take them outside and spray paint them using some white chalk paint. I found this beautiful tissue paper at Dollar Tree and thought it would look great on this mason jar. I applied the tissue paper with Mod Podge and then used antiquing wax to give it a darker color. Once the wax was dry, I applied another layer of Mod Podge to the jar and set it to the side to dry. I painted one of the Dollar Tree jars with Waverly Ballet Slipper chalk paint. I tied a piece of string around the top of the jar and added 3 natural wood beads to each of the hanging strings. I get my wood beads from Amazon. I paid like $16 for a pack of 1,000 beads, which range in size from 6mm to 20mm. I'll leave a link in the description for the beads I always use. I left the other jar white, and I found this pink ribbon in my stash. I hot glued it around the top of the jar, and then hot glued a tiny bow to the front. And just look at how cute. It looks better than all of my stuff just sitting in jars on my counter. And guys, I wanted to let you know that I will be participating in the Red, White, and Blue Challenge hosted by Teresa B. DIY and Unicorn Dust Designs in May. All proceeds made in May will be donated to the Fisher House. Fisher Houses are a home away from home offered at no cost to military and veteran families, allowing them to be together with their loved ones receiving specialized care at military and VA medical centers around the world and ensure they can be a part of the healing process. Be sure to subscribe and check out the other participants in this challenge. Currently, my channel is not monetized, so if you could check out the link in the description and make a small donation, I would really appreciate it. Another way you can show your support is to watch the ads on the other participants' pages. By watching the ads and not skipping them, the ads' revenue will go up, which means the amount they will donate for this challenge will increase. I'll let you know more details about this challenge in the upcoming videos.